Okay, so welcome to Bootcamp, and this is our first session. So we will be getting introduction to performance testing. So I'm sure all of you have some idea of software testing, why we do it, why it is inevitable. So I'll be sharing some of my training session links so that you can go through as a recap through functional testing course as well. Plus, I'll be also sharing some Java core sessions so that parallelly we will continue to do some Java programs as well. Okay, so let's go through some of the incidences. I'm sure you all would be reading newspaper and maybe through social media also you'll be getting a lot of information, and something would be certainly related to performance of applications around you. And because we are all surrounded by social media, we use our gadgets in and out. If your mobile apps does not load in few seconds, you are going to abandon that particular mobile app, and maybe you will get irritated, because what we nowadays expect is sub-second response time, right? So every page should get on a mobile loaded max within 2 seconds, not beyond that. So let's go through some incidences which are related to performance. And as you are venturing into career of performance testing, I would strongly encourage you to keep your eye open, for any such incidences, so that you will come to know, what is happening in the world of application performance, what are the typical issues, how they are getting resolved. So companies like Facebook, Google, whenever they face such kind of issues, they will actually share a root cause analysis report. How did they resolve it? And that's what more interesting for us, because we are curious to know, how does Google resolve any performance related issues, or how does Facebook, right? Because those are 24/7 available applications. So let's look at some of the examples. So Xiaomi sells over 3 lakhs Redmi Note 5 and Note 5 Pro in 3 minutes. Yeah, this is the news from February 2021. So where this Chinese brand could sell 3 lakh phones in 3 minutes. So if you do a simple mathematics, that means 1 lakh phone per minute, right? And if we go further deep, let me do quick calculation. So basically 1 lakh per minute, correct? And if we say we have 60 seconds, so they actually sold 1600 phones every second. Okay, now when we sell, or when we buy from a website, you do so many transactions, right? You will enter your credit card details, or you will go through net banking. So 1700 users were actually getting messages like your order is complete. We will be dispatching your Redmi Note or Redmi Pro, whatever. So isn't it amazing? Every second, 1700 users buying consistently. Now next, similarly, they achieved a record-breaking sell. I'm on a second point now, where they sold 53 lakh devices, which means 525 devices per minute. 6 days of sell on Amazon and Flipkart. So the first point relates to very quick. So flash sale, you all would be aware, right? On Amazon or Flipkart, we have some flash sales. Flash sale means it will be over in a minute. So people actually keep a timer, yeah, and then they will log in exactly at that time. If you're delayed by 1 minute, you're gone. The sale is over. So the first point relates to flash sale, in which 3 minutes, 3 lakhs phones dispatched. Imagine the revenue they would have made in 3 minutes. Yeah. Now on the same, they actually sold 53 lakhs. Now it pertains to 6 days sale. So this was little distributed. This was not very intense, 1000+ orders getting processed every second. It was 525 per minute. Yeah. So around 70-80 devices per second, which is okay still. So what does this tell? That your IT systems need to be so fast because they are related to revenue. So imagine if Xiaomi, they would have some glitch in their infrastructure or application, and the sale is abandoned. So obviously they're losing a lot of revenue. Same is the case for those 6 days. Imagine, there is some issue and they're not able to sell. That's a revenue loss, right? And these online sales contribute a lot to all these, e-commerce companies, be it Amazon. So if Amazon website is down for a few minutes, I'm sure they would be incurring millions and billions of dollars of loss. Yeah, and obviously down, website down, necessarily not only because of performance, it can be some other issue. The point here is that no one prefers a slow website. No one likes to have slow website. Now I got so many examples later in the session in which we will come to know why performance is becoming so important in today's world. Yeah. Third point is Black Friday crashes in US. Now Black Friday is typically a Friday where the Christmas season starts. Yeah, in this European and America. So what these stores will do, they will open up store at 12 o'clock in the night. They will give huge discounts, 50% discount, 60% discount. And people actually buy like crazy. Yeah, and not only to stores, they buy online as well. Yeah, because similar, a flash sale is opening on 12 o'clock Friday night. So everyone would be ready with their internet connection and they're logged in, they're just ready to click. So imagine the load on server, right? There will be 3-4 times amount of orders being served. So many times what happens, the server crashes, the infrastructure is not able to respond to so many orders, so many queries, and they typically call these as a Black Friday crashes. Now obviously these Black Friday crashes now have gone down, obviously because of the usage of cloud. Yeah, so cloud gives you ability to increase your infrastructure on demand. So for example, if you are actually deployed your application on any cloud, be it Amazon, Google Cloud, right, or Azure. Azure is from Microsoft. So there are 3 cloud offerings today in market, right? From Amazon is AWS, Amazon Web Services. From Google, it's a Google Cloud. And then Microsoft has come up with Azure, right? So those 3 are the strong players in the cloud market today. So nowadays, all companies post their applications on cloud. Now the benefit it gives is it's very elastic, right? For example, if we see that there is sudden increase in orders. So what they will do, they will add one more application server on the fly. And literally in 1 or 2 minutes, that server would be up. Yeah, so then you are not constrained, by a physical hardware, which was the case earlier, 5 years, 10 years back. And that's where these Black Friday crashes were very common in US. Now it has gone down because obviously the cloud has come. They have ability to expand on demand. You can spin as many servers as you want in a matter of minutes. To spin a server means to actually acquire new hardware from the cloud and start using it. So basically server is up and ready in few minutes. Yeah. Next is Amazon crashed on Prime Day. Again, you would see these are little old data, right? But the point here is that this will help us to understand the performance behavior of the application. Now, we all know Prime Day. We all are, I think, we all buy from Amazon. We all buy from Flipkart. Many of us would have been a Prime membership. So Prime membership, they will charge you and they will give you some premium service, right? So for example, if you look at now again in Diwali, Amazon will come up with Diwali sale. So what they will do, Diwali sale would be open for Prime members 1 day before non-Prime members. So you are given some privileges, right? So you can buy items 1 day before with the same discount. If you are not a Prime member, basically you cannot buy on that day. You will not be getting that discount. You will get discount 1 day later. So naturally, whenever there is a Prime Day, so it's kind of again sell declared by Amazon. Their server crashed in 2018. Little old, maybe they were not using cloud very profusely that time. Another example of India, Indian companies, Flipkart. They had a billion rupee day or some sell in 2014. Again, their server failed. So whenever such server fails, because they are not able to cope up because of large volume of orders or large users trying to use it, right, then definitely it can be attributed to performance of the application. So application is not able to perform as expected. under severe load, and that's why it is giving up, it is failing. There are a couple of examples related to cricket. When Sachin was batting on 198, I mean, the first double century in one day, Cricinfo website crashed because so many people are, hey, boss, Sachin is batting on 198. Everyone wanted to watch his first double century. So everyone tried to log into Cricinfo and it crashed because of unprecedented load on the website. Similarly, his 200 test match, the servers which were used for selling tickets, they crashed because everyone thronged to buy the ticket because they wanted to watch that, lifetime event of Tendulkar playing his 200 test match, right? I mean, he was the first one to play, I think, 200 test match. So what this example tell us, that all applications are susceptible to failure when they come under load, typically when it is not expected. No one expected, right, that Xiaomi can sell so many. But so first 2 points are a positive attribute of performance, because Xiaomi displayed that yes, we can deliver 80 device cell in a minute. Our infrastructure, our applications are capable of doing that. First point says that yes, they demonstrated their ability to deliver 1700 orders every second for continuous 3 minutes. So because they had those abilities, obviously they reaped the fruits. They got very good revenues out of those cells. Whereas the examples after that, because of the unprecedented load, the application started hanging. I mean, it crashed. They lost so much of a revenue. It's not just the revenue, right? When such a website goes down, imagine that Amazon goes down. Yeah, and it goes down frequently. Then you will not be very happy to again log into Amazon and saying that it goes down. Typically at 11 o'clock, I see it takes a lot of time to complete the order. So the end user experience is a keyword here. Yeah, so all of this lead to what? When you have good revenue, when you have good user experience. When I log into Amazon, either through my mobile or either through my laptop, if I'm able to complete my order without waiting, I would say yes, thumbs up. I'm coming back to Amazon for my next order. Next, whatever I need, I'll first check on Amazon. And imagine if your order gets, delayed, cancelled, if your order gets stuck, if the page doesn't load properly, then you will not be happy to visit Amazon again. Right? So revenues, end user experience, and performance are very closely related. So if performance goes down, in a sense, you are not able to give good user experience to your end user, they will not come back to your website. You will start losing revenue. You will be out of business. Now, there is one more example which I could see recently. So when Salman Khan's Radhe got released, now this is very recent, right? So so all of these films nowadays get released on OTT also. OTT is over the top media. So nowadays, I mean, we don't go to theater or to watch movie very often. Earlier there was no choice. Now what you can do, you have a smart TV at home, you just download the app and you can watch the same movie at home. Yeah, that's called OTT. So all these movies nowadays get released on OTT as well, because that is another market to get revenue. So when Salman Khan's Radhe got launched, the OTT servers of ZEE5, I mean the servers which we were actually streaming this movie to the users, they crashed because 1.25 million people were trying to watch the movie at the same time. Now, obviously, the producer of Radhe would be extremely happy to hear that, boss, 1.25 million people want to watch my movie. That means I'm getting such a great revenue. But imagine, because of server crashes, those people could not watch the movie. And once you get that bad experience, maybe you will say, boss, I will watch next week. or maybe I'll go to a movie theater and I will watch it, right? Or you may not even go. You'll say, "Arey yaar, chhod do. Let's watch it sometime later when it becomes free," right? So this is a good example of losing revenue because particular company, their infrastructure could not manage that heavy traffic. They did not expect that 1.25 million. So 1 million is 10 lakhs. So around 12 lakh 50,000 people were trying to watch this movie at the same time. Yeah, so this is a very recent crash. So I just given some information on Black Friday. So basically it is a Friday where the shopping season starts in US. Yeah, so it's after Thanksgiving. So they have Thanksgiving, then they have Christmas after that. So everyone starts shopping because many stores offer highly promoted sales, discounted prices. They open early, sometime as early as midnight. So they'll say, boss, we are open 24/7 for Black Friday, starting Black Friday. So you can imagine huge number of orders, a lot of churning of, visitors. The systems will be under tremendous load. So what all this tells us is if you want good revenues, you need to have good application infrastructure, which will provide a good user experience. Yeah, so good user experience means which will enforce a user to come back to your application or website to use it. Arey yaar, this is nice. It basically within 2 minutes, I can buy anything on Amazon. That's the credibility Amazon has developed. Very good performance. The moment I click, within 2 seconds, my page gets loaded. If I search for something, within 2 seconds, I get list of whatever I searched. I don't need to wait for, so anything beyond 10 seconds, we will have this discussion also. What is the recommended response time for all these applications which are external facing in public domain? So there are some guidelines based on human behavior also. And so performance is important. All these examples tells us that if you have application which are actually having good performance, you will be the market leader in your own product, because then you're able to interact with your users while you're giving them good user experience. You are making good revenue. Naturally, you are moving up the ladder, in your market. So so I will expect this session to be interactive, guys. So if you have any such example to share, you can do that. Or what is your observation on based on that? Or have you ever experienced slow response time from any of the application you use, in day to day?
Yes, sir. More recently, I observed like YouTube also introduced their 4K experience.
Mhm.
Uh, in that case, YouTube was also like the response time was very low and it crashed like 6 months back.
Okay, that is
So that was
interesting.
yeah. So they like virtual experience of 4K something like that. Like we usually use 1080. Beyond that, they also introduced 4K.
Mm-hmm.
For more for the devices like big devices like TVs and all. But
Okay.
it got down within like an hour or so.
Okay. So Rishikesh, I will recommend you get some more details and you can share that tomorrow with all of us.
Yes, yes, sir. I didn't dig it much. Like I did, it was my observation.
Mhm.
Like it was servers was down that
Okay.
day. So I
Okay.
will get
So
back to you. Like you share some light on that as well.
correct. So basically, if you Google it, you will certainly get a lot of people watching the way you are watching, and they would have gone in detail, they would have analyzed. Even
Yes.
Google would have come back saying that, yes, we faced this issue. There was an issue with our this layer, that layer, infrastructure, or our data center, whatever. They would have
Yes.
analyzed that and they will make it public so that everyone knows how they're, investigating and resolving it on priority.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. So let's move on. So any questions on this? Anything you have not understood? Any term which I used? Okay. Let's move on. Okay, let's have a look at functional testing versus non-functional testing now. So I assume all of you know what is a functional testing, and you have a high level idea of non-functional testing. So when it comes to non-functional testing, as per ISTQB, which is a worldwide body of certification in testing, they say that the three types of testing are non-functional. The first one is security testing, which is non-functional. Second is usability testing, and third is performance testing. Yeah. So on the right side, basically what I have done, I have put some of the attributes of non-functional testing, and on left side I have put some attributes of functional testing. So we all know when it comes to functional testing, we always check the correctness is a single most important attribute we test our software for. What we mean by correctness, we look at the requirements and we'll try to check if our software displays the behavior based on the requirement or not, right? And if it is displaying the behavior as per the requirement, what we say, yes, it's the correct behavior. When it does not match with the expected behavior as per the requirements, we say it is incorrect. Yeah, for example, if I'm trying to book a flight, and when actually I get a ticket, I see the flight number is wrong. So that means, the behavior is not correct. Similarly, EMI calculation for a loan, if it is being calculated wrongly, that means there is something wrong with the application. The behavior is not as expected. What are we expecting? That based on the formula or based on the current interest rate, it will actually calculate the correct EMI. EMI is a monthly installment for any loan. Right? Similarly, correct page getting loaded. For example, if you click on an order placing application, let us take any e-commerce website. At the end, when you say confirm your order and you click on confirm, what you're expecting, you will expect that a message that, okay, your order is complete. We are working on dispatching it or whatever, something which tells you that the order process is complete. And now you wait and we will deliver your parcel at your home. In that place, if you don't get that message and if you get something else, you will say this is not the expected behavior. So application is not behaving correctly. Correct. So when it comes to functional testing, we are talking of the functionality of the application. We are referring to requirements, which tells us that this application should do A, B, C, D, and it should not do X, Y, Z. When we do functional testing, we will check whether it does A, B, C, D. And by negative testing, we also check that it does not do X, Y, Z. And then we say, yes, I think we have tested the application and it is behaving as per the requirements. It is a correct behavior. So such behaviors can be seen and visualized. I'm on this point. Yeah, because you can actually see whether the flight was booked correctly or not, the calculation, the EMI statement which you get, whether the amounts are right or wrong, and which page got loaded, whether it is expected or not. So it contains some objectivity. Objectivity means there is no confusion. It is very clear. You can check through flight number, whether correct flight got booked, through amount, and which page should have been loaded, whether it loaded or not. So it is relatively simple to measure, right? Because you can see it, you can feel it, you can visualize it. And what it does, it basically describes what a software does to satisfy a user. Yeah, and obviously these user requirements will be drafted by business analysts or domain experts based on what a user should expect. Yeah, so that is on the left side, a functional testing. Now let's have a look at non-functional testing. Now I have given some example. Vulnerability is basically a weakness in the system which allows any unauthorized person to access the system. That's called vulnerability. So my bank account is compromised. For example, I got an SMS from my bank account saying that 2000 rupees got transferred or debited or whatever. And when I realized that I have not done anything, I have not set any transaction for transfer, why it is happening? So that means someone got access to my bank account. That is called compromising a bank account. So I'm sure all of you are on Facebook. You would have seen messages from friends of yours saying that, please don't accept any friend request from me. My Facebook account is hacked. Any one of you got this message? I see so many people, and then they say actually don't accept any friend request from my profile. And if I'm not asking any money to anyone, so if someone asks money as if he's imitating me, please don't give any money.
Yes, sir. Frequently, we even do see this same thing on Twitter as well.
Correct.
Yeah, tweets getting hacked and something like that.
Correct.
Like
I
their
will share my
profiles are
own
getting.
experience. So I have got one friend named Sandeep in Australia. Okay. And we are in good touch. We are on Facebook, shares, comment on each other's photo. So one morning, I got one WhatsApp message from one Australia number, and it said, "Hi Vikrant, Sandeep here. I'm in a bit of trouble." So I said, "Okay, hi Sandeep, what happened?" He said, "No, no, actually, I'm in need of some urgent money. Can you give me 30,000 rupees? I'll share my bank account details." So I called him immediately on Facebook, on WhatsApp, a video call, because I wanted to talk to him. I mean, it's always good to help your friends, but you should know that it is authentic request or not. So that person kept on cutting the phone, my phone call. And then he sent me a WhatsApp message, I have a network problem. Okay. Then I started something, I thought something is fishy. Yeah. So I had his Australia number stored with me. I checked, that number was different, this number is different. Obviously, because when you get a WhatsApp on from your friend, you get the name displayed, right? But I thought maybe you would have taken new number. It's always a possibility. Yeah, so I immediately sent message to whatever number I had, saying, Sandeep, I got one, WhatsApp message from your another number, and I want to talk to you. So I called him. So he immediately sent me a message, I'm in a meeting. Then I started even more suspicious, right? I mean, how can, otherwise you would have referred to something, right? So I immediately sent him the screenshot of what I received from another number. And he said, oh my God, that is not my number. But then how did this happen? Because someone was watching my social media interaction with Sandeep. They figured out that I'm a friend of Sandeep because of my comments, his comments on my photos. Yeah, so nowadays security testing or security has become such a problem. You would see typically most of the senior citizens, because they're not computer savvy, they don't understand. I mean, someone calls them, yeah, I'll click on this link. You have 1 crore rupees. Never click on such links, right? Because then, or sometimes they say you download this application and, we will have a video call, then you share your bank account details. Never do that, right? So that is called security. So unauthorized person, someone who has no right or nothing to do with your account, they get access to your account, right? So but most of the time, people fall trap because of they want more money, right? And then they lose everything. So that is vulnerability security testing. Another example I have given is usability. Now usability is very subjective term, right? How do I know that one application is more usable than other? Now there are some guidelines or criteria. For example, if I take two e-commerce websites, yeah, e-commerce website one, I will not take names because we are just comparing usability aspect here. So there is no e-commerce website good or bad. Yeah, so e-commerce website one, e-commerce website two, both offer you that you can buy a product. And that's a facility they offer. On e-commerce website one, I can actually buy a product in less than 2 minutes and within 5 clicks. Yeah, I will first search, I will add to cart, I will enter my whatever details, I will confirm the address, I will say go, enter OTP and done. On e-commerce website too, I take around 3 to 4 minutes and I have to click 10 to 15 times. So which e-commerce website is more usable?
First one.
First
One, correct? Because it is more convenient. So many times you would see that there are drop downs or they will autofill. So that is the way to make it your website usable. Yeah, because I'm saving time of the user. Sometimes there are two applications. They are not external facing. That means they are not used by public, but they are used by company internally. One application is tremendously complex and another is not. So naturally, the complex one is not usable. Correct. So usability matters, and there are ways to, you can rank your applications or websites in terms of usability. But generally, usability means how easy is your website. So how quickly you can learn it or how quickly you can use it. Yeah, and what convenience it gives to you. That is usability. So that is second non-functional testing. Now I have given two attributes in green called speed and scalability. These are related to performance testing. Now application A is faster than application B. I mean, we have got, let us say, so many music related applications, right? But then on one application, I can download it quickly, can search the song, I can download it, it's very good. It gives me suggestions. Whereas on a second, it's not that fast. So I will say application A is having better performance than application B. Yeah, and end user experience, obviously. So the speed of the response, typically called response time, it matters when it comes to performance testing. Second I'm given is it's not related to individual user, but as I said, application goes down at peak hours. Peak hours means when the application is serving maximum number of users, that is called peak hours. Yeah, so typically you will see, let us say a website or your internet banking application. When you log in the morning, it is fatafat, within a second, within 2 seconds, you're getting all the pages displayed. When you log in little by 11 or 12, it takes 1 or 2 seconds more. So that means your application has become slower because it is being used by more number of users. So same infrastructure is shared by more number of users. So naturally the individual response time is increasing. So that is called scalability. So scalability also is one attribute of performance. So scalability, we will actually understand this through proper graph display later as a part of terminology. But scalability is nothing but your application's ability to support more number of users without degrading its performance. That is called scalability. Now, if we look at non-functional testing attributes, you see they're not very easy to observe, right? It's not simple, go and check the page, go and check the error message, go and check the flight number or amount, right? So how do you know application is faster or slower? It's not very easily identifiable. You feel it. But if I ask you, how fast is application A as compared to application B, we will not be able to tell. We'll say, I don't know how much, but it is faster. Similarly, how many users an application can support, we won't be able to tell because it's not easily visible. Usability aspect, vulnerability aspect also, you can directly confirm. You start suspecting that something is wrong, something has hacked my account, right? But how do you prove it? It's a little difficult, right? Because it contains subjectivity. It's not 0 and 1. So as functional aspects, you can visualize, you can easily validate. Non-functional is little difficult to validate. It's not straightforward because it contains subjectivity. Yeah, so it's relatively difficult to measure, whether your application's non-functional ability is good or bad. Yeah. So when we say what a software does to satisfy user is answered by functional testing, that is correctness. How a software works to satisfy users is the question which is answered by non-functional testing. Yeah. So is my user able to see response time in less than 2 seconds? How it is behaving, right? Is my application able to support 1,000+ users? That is how my software works, not what it does. So what it does is already validated by my functional testing. Now how it behaves will be answered by non-functional testing. Yeah, so these are some of the key differences in non-functional testing and functional testing. You can't easily validate that. You need some more efforts to validate that there is an issue. It contains subjectivity and it answers a typical question, how does a software satisfy user? Whereas functional testing will answer a question, what a software does, correctness, behavior. Any questions on this?
Hello, Vikrant sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just I want to ask you, whenever we are just testing the application app APK, at that time, many times the application get crash. So what, which in which it will come? It is in functional testing. It will come in non-functional testing, right?
So basically, you are doing functional testing.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, but
I'm
your
doing.
correct. So your intent is to validate the behavior of the software.
Right.
Okay, but while you are doing it, the software crashes. So that means there is a performance issue also with the software, which is not allowing you to use the software to validate the functional behavior. So the type of issue is performance still.
Okay.
Okay, but that is not the intent which you started with. That's the only
Yes.
difference.
Yes. Sir.
Yeah, so the issue would be still performance.
Okay.
Yeah, but then you tried using it for functional testing and it crashed. So while doing functional testing, you have uncovered a performance issue. That way you can put it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Archana, any questions on this?
No, sir.
Okay, hope you are following, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's move on. Now, these are some of the aspects of functional and performance. Because the topic of this bootcamp is performance, let's keep security and usability little aside, and let's focus more on performance testing. Yeah, so there are some aspects which I have put down on the left side, and I have given some data points related to functional as well as performance testing. So when it comes to ease, it's a comparison, right? So it's not absolute. So functional testing is relatively easy and intuitive in nature, right? You know what you're expecting. You know that I want to see a text box here. When I click on this, I want to see this page. For performance testing is difficult compared to functional testing, difficult to understand and plan. Yeah, because it is not done the way functional testing is done. It is done in a different way. That's why it is difficult to understand and plan both. Objective of functional testing is what we just discussed, correctness of the functionality. Whereas objective of performance testing is to expected behavior of the whole system. When it comes to functional testing, you're not bothered about hardware, which is underlying. When it comes to performance, you cannot separate hardware and software. You actually study the whole system, which includes hardware and includes software. And then you decide how the software is behaving. So you assume that it is behaving correctly because functional testing is typically done before performance testing. So we first validate the functionality and then we validate the behavior of how the application behaves under the load. And that includes hardware, software, both. Yeah, so first functional testing is done and performance testing is done after functional testing. Simple reason, right? And this question will be asked to you in interview also. Yeah, when do you start performance testing? So the standard answer to this question is when we have completed the functional testing When we have closed all the functional testing defects, application is functionally stable. That means now there are no more critical defects and high priority or high severity defects present in application. Then we can start performance testing. Imagine that you're trying to do a performance testing of the application, which is not even functional tested. So you will see a lot of functional defects. So you will not be able to complete your performance testing, because for doing performance testing, at least you should be able to complete the flow, right? If you take an example of e-commerce website, I want to test whether I can place an order, correct? But if my order is getting stuck in between, how do I test it for performance? Because it has a functional problem. So we have to first clear all functional issues. We have to certify that yes, it is functionally stable application. Then we will go for performance testing. So that's the reason typically you will see, testing happens towards the end in any software development life cycle, and performance testing happens at the end of testing, because that's the last step. And that's why it is many times very high pressure job, because you have to work on weekends sometimes, or you have got 2 days only to complete your performance testing. And that's why it becomes a little more challenging. So there are ways out, obviously you can reduce that risk, though you cannot remove it totally, but then that's the way performance testing happens. When it comes to execution of test, functional test, you can do manually or you can automate those test cases. Yeah, so Selenium is one tool which is open source, which can be used. UFT is one tool from Micro Focus. There are many other tools in market. Test Complete is one such tool. Yeah, those are licensed tools. So you can use those tools to automate your functional test cases. When it comes to performance, there is not a single instance I have come across where you can do manual performance testing. A tool is a must. Imagine, I'll give you one example. We want to test that, performance testing is, we want to test our application with 1,000 users. Where would you bring 1,000 testers to test the application at the same time? It's not possible. In 1,000 is just some number. It can be 10,000 also. So you can't have 10,000 testers trying to test the application. So you have to have a tool which will actually create 1,000 threads, and they will try to use the application. Yeah, so it has to be automated. Mostly I have written, but then practically you will say it is not possible to manually performance test any application. It has to be through tool. When it comes to infrastructure, functional testing, we can just manage with very minimal infrastructure. What you want to run the application. That's it. When it comes to performance, no, we want to consider the hardware sizing part also. So we need significantly bigger infrastructure. You can't do a performance testing on a functional testing environment. Functional testing environment will be very small, basic minimum hardware they will give. When it comes to performance, you have to build separate performance testing environment, which is significantly bigger. Defects are less costlier. Now again, it's a comparison, it's less costly as compared to performance testing defects. Any defect is costly, no doubt. But if you compare a performance defect and a functional defect, performance fix the defect, the time you will need to fix it, time you will need to find it out, the loss you will incur will be a lot bigger than any functional testing defect. Skill set, when if you're working in banking domain, right, you develop that banking domain knowledge, isn't it? So basically what you know is good domain knowledge, and you should be good with test processes. You should know how to write a test plan, how to write a test case, how to populate a template for a test case, how to use a defect management tool like Jira or HPALM, what's the defect management life cycle, that you should be aware. When it comes to performance testing, you should be strong in technology, and this can be learned. Right, as I mentioned, you should know at least one good programming language. You should be good to scale up on architecture, right? And you should be ready to do some scripting also. That's again part of programming, right? So it's more technology driven. Yeah, you will go and study the architecture of the application. For functional testing, you don't need architecture. You'll say, boss, I'll look at behavior. So first comes the technology, then processes and domain. So it's okay if you're not very good in domain. It doesn't matter when it comes to performance testing. Requirement gathering as a, in general process also, gathering requirement is not easy. There are so many factors, communication gap, the different biases. You can refer to this in my functional testing sessions, why it is difficult to gather requirements. Yeah. So when it comes to performance requirement, it is even more challenging. I have seen rarely performance testing requirements are documented. You would see most of the time projects, they will say you do performance testing. And then we'll ask, okay, can you give us the requirements? They'll say, no, we don't have requirements. You form your own requirements. Yeah, so at least functional, you have to have requirement, because without that, you cannot develop a product or an application. When it comes to performance testing, they'll say, boss, we don't know. You work it on its own. I have written actually one article on this, how you can resolve the requirement gathering challenges in performance testing. I'll share that with you. You can go through it offline. Yeah. So examples of functional testing are integration testing, system testing, end-to-end testing. These are levels of testing, right? We all know. Integration testing is a level of testing. System testing is a level of testing. When it comes to performance, we typically do load testing, we do stress testing, spike testing, soak and endurance. These are 4 broader types of tests which we do when it comes to performance testing. Any questions on this?
Grant sir,
Yeah.
I just want to ask you the third point. Typically, precedence typically done before performance testing and typically done after functional testing. So I just
Yes.
want to ask you, in software we are having different models. If so, first of all, I think we have to complete all the modules first, and then we have to do the performance testing. Is it, or if we are completed first module, then we can go for the performance testing?
So it is actually case by case, So there is no guideline that you have to first complete all the modules. For
Okay.
example, if you have done functional testing of one module, and if it is feasible to do performance testing of only that module, then you should do it. But many times it may not be feasible, because that one module will interact with other modules.
Yes, sir.
Right. So in that case, it's all depends on your performance test strategy. There is something called drivers and stubs.
Okay.
In functional testing, you would have all learned what is
Yes,
driver
sir.
and what is a stub.
Yes, sir.
So you can either develop them and then you can do performance testing. So you can actually review and understand whether it is feasible or whether it is meaningful to do performance testing of one module, or it is better to wait.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Archana, any questions?
No, sir.
You're following what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, feel free to ask questions, yeah, because you are the only fresher in this batch. So others would have seen how testing works and they're able to relate because they have seen projects. But as you have not seen, you can ask questions. Don't feel shy. It's okay. Yeah, but then
Yes,
if you don't ask, then you will never get that clarification.
yes, sir.
So don't feel ki he kasa vicharu, asa kai nahi. Feel absolutely free, because at the end of boot camp, you should have that confidence that yes, now I know. Earlier I was not knowing, but now I know. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So don't feel shy or awkward. You can ask any question absolutely. For you, it is allowed because you are a fresher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sir, I have one question.
Hmm?
Sir, regarding that requirement gathering, usually we do have in functional testing, usually we do have stories and we create test cases and all that. In case of performance testing, how it is done?
So it's
Just
same.
wanted.
Only the
Yes.
story is for the performance of the system, not a functional attribute of the system. So there
Okay.
is no change in process wise, only the
Mhm.
stories will change.
Okay.
They will talk of performance. Yeah, so they will say, if I buy a product, typically I should be able to complete it in 2 minutes, the whole process.
Okay.
Okay, or it may say that my application supports 1,000 users.
Mhm.
Let us say that is one user story. That talks of scalability. That our application, if 1,000 users log in, then my application should still work with reasonable response time. So that then they'll give attribute. With 1,000 users, the response time 90th percentile should not be less than, should not be greater than 5
Mhm.
seconds. My CPU and memory should be utilized within limits. So there are some standard limits which they will give reference to.
Okay.
Yeah, so they will describe performance, not the behavior of the application from a functional perspective.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, so launching my bank application. So I've taken one simple example. We all use internet banking. So shall we take quick 2 minutes break and I'll resume because this is new topic in the session. Yeah, because it's 1 hour. Now this is first day. So my throat is going to complain a little bit in between. So I'll sip some hot water and I'll be back in 2 minutes. So we'll start back at 11:30, 3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Sure.
So I'll pause the recording and I'll be back at
Yeah, that.
11:30. Yeah. Okay. So I've taken one My Bank application, which is an online banking application. And let's go through, typically how performance testing would make a change. Yeah, so My Bank is a local bank. It's an imaginary local bank which provides banking services to its retail customers. A retail customer means customers like us who are having savings account. They will deposit their salary, they will do transactions, right? They are called retail customers. So this My Bank, like other banks also have a digitization initiative, right? So every bank is trying to go digital. What do we mean by that? Digital means it is available through all your electronic devices, right? And so going cashless. So My Bank plans to launch its online banking application. Okay, and now this is a little old slide. So 21-22 this year they are 22-23 they want to implement. So right now they don't have any internet banking application. So all their customers. So we all are, let us say, having account in My Bank. So we all go to My Bank branches. We go to My Bank ATMs. So we have no internet banking application. So we cannot do any transactions, from internet. So I have considered 3 scenarios. Yeah, so they want to, My Bank wants to launch their internet banking application. And to start with, they will enable these kind of transactions, right? So we will be able to log in and log out. Then some account related transactions they will allow. That means, dashboard view. So when we log into that account, we will see how much is the balance and all that. View account statement, pay bills and transfer money. Very basic things they are going to allow. Similarly, they're saying, okay, that we will also allow some credit card related transactions. So again, dashboard view, which will tell you how much you have spent, how much is balance. Then you can generate monthly statement. You can view past statement, and then you can pay credit card bill. Now, when it comes to functional testing, you know what kind of test cases you will write, right? For login and logout, you will say combination of valid, invalid, positive test cases, negative test cases. When it comes to account related, you will say, okay, I should be able to see the dashboard. I can see my account statement. It should be correct. I should be able to pay bills. I should be able to transfer money, right? Similarly, credit card, similar transactions. Okay. Now let's move on. Okay. So I have just shown a pictorial view of, so they said, okay, they formed an IT team. My bank, they formed IT team, they employed some developers, testers, or they gave it to some other IT company. It can be anything. So at high level, on the left side, what we are showing is a build phase, then there is a test phase, and then it is deployment to production. Now design and development. So they would have collected the requirements, from the users, or they would have talked to business analyst, so many things. Then they would have done a unit testing of the code. They would have developed modules. For example, first module can be your credit card. Second can be your account transactions. So those will be the modules which my bank application will contain. Yeah, so development team of around 20 people started working on it. They worked for many months. Okay, so requirements were gathered, code was written, unit testing is done, right? And now it is given to testing team. So integration testing is what they will start with, because unit testing is done. So they will start with integration testing. Then they will do system testing. Yeah, so first they will integrate the modules. They will see whether they work independently or not. Once they work independently and together, they will start with system testing. When they say, okay, our system testing is complete, they will involve a UAT, right? User acceptance testing. So user acceptance testing, they will invite users to come and check that we have developed these applications. These are the requirements. You tell us whether you can use it in production or not. Okay, so we have a test team of around 10 members. So that's the typical ratio. It can be lesser than that. So development team would be around 20-30, test team would be around 10 to 15, let us assume. So basically what we have taken care is functionality, all good, integration testing done, system testing done, user acceptance testing. They say, okay, system is good to use. Okay, and then my bank management declares to all the users. They will send SMS to all the mobile users, all the members on mobile, that from, let us say, 1st of October, we are going to launch internet banking. We are going digital. They will say all blah, blah, blah to impress their customers and members. Okay, now comes the 1st October. And then people start logging into my bank. And then boom, it actually fails miserably on day one in production. Why? Because 600 users tried to log into my bank application at the same time. So what was missing? Right? So when we did integration testing, when we did system testing, when we did UAT testing, the number of users were how many? Max 10 or 15. So my bank could be used by 15 users. But when 600 users tried to use the same application, it failed because no one validated whether 600 users can really use the My Bank application or not. So can you see the difference in the users?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so here I assume everyone know what is production. Archana, you know what is production environment?
Yes, sir. The actually product is in use.
Correct. So basically production environment is very sensitive because it will contain all the real data of users, the transactions they make, right? When we do it on a test environment, that can be manipulated. No, it's okay if you do some mistake. Yeah, but production environment, let us say our banking, let's say we have account with SBI. Okay, and you log into your account and you see that your name is wrongly typed there or something it changed. You will not like it. So who touched my bank account? Who gave you rights to touch it? It's so personal and so sensitive, and it's highly private. So production environment is very, I mean, very few people in the company would have access to that environment, and those people would be very knowledgeable and expert in their own fields. Otherwise, no one would have access to production environment. So production environment is typically when you actually use the application, it is hosted on the set of servers, data centers. So that collectively is called as a production environment. Okay, so now we know the problem, right? Because we never tested my bank with 600 users. Whereas 600 users started using it on day one because everyone was excited. Arey, yaar, my bank, I'll now just log in and I'll see how the experience. I'll tell my friends, that I can do internet banking now through my bank and all. But then no one expected that, with 600 users, it will fail because no one tested it with 600 users. So what was missing in the whole process? Let's look at it. So there was some data which should have been gathered, but that was missing. So when team started working again after this failure, they said, okay, let's see what's the problem. Where did we go wrong? When they started collecting data, this is what they got. So there are 30,000 existing accounts with my bank. Okay, they said, okay, 30,000 is big number. Typical peak hour of rush in branches, because right now everyone goes to branch, right? Because there is no internet banking. So typical peak hour. So what they are observing between 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., maximum people would be in branches doing transactions, either withdrawing money or transferring money or paying bills or submitting whatever credit card, submitting checks. Yeah, because between 11 to 12 is convenient for everyone. So that's why it's called peak hour, maximum number of people. So if you compare 11 to 12 with any other hour, 8 to 9 a.m. or 9 to 10, the number of users would be less. So that's why this is called peak. So peak hour is having the maximum load. So during peak hour, around 600 users are expected to be using the MyBank online application, obviously, right? So between 11 to 12, when we are now launching MyBank internet banking application, same users would log into your website rather than going to branch, and they will thank you that, okay, now you are saving my time. I don't need to go to branch. It's very inconvenient. It's very, it's very hot day. I don't want to go. But because you have given me now internet banking, I'm happy to log in, right? So we are expecting that similar number of users would be logging in. Okay, now when we get more data capturing, what we understand that these users would include bank branch employees plus customers, correct? So 500 customers plus 100 employees. So these employees also are doing something. They are also using the banking application. So that also will get added. So in total, 600 users would be accessing the system. There is one more aspect to it. MyBank Online also needs to interact with external systems. You cannot have your standalone banking internet site, right? Because when you transfer money to other bank, it has to interact with a payment gateway or third-party transfer mechanisms. Yeah, so it has to interact with other bank systems, central payment processing, and many other external channels. For example, I'm transferring money using Paytm, Google Pay, Bhim UPI. These are all also going to talk to MyBank Online application, isn't it? Imagine I have a bank account in MyBank, okay, and I'm transferring money to one of you through Paytm. What would happen? Paytm will go and talk to MyBank Online application. Okay, suppose if I'm transferring, let us say ₹1,000 to one of you. When I say Paytm, I say, okay, done. Paytm system will trigger an API, application programming interface, right? So it will talk to my banking application. It will check, this is the account number, this is the name of the account, and does Vijay has 1,000 rupees bank balance? Banking system will say yes. Then it will say, okay, deduct 1,000, reduce the bank balance by 1,000 rupees, and it will actually send the same message to other bank. Now you add, right? So add 1,000 rupees to so and so account number, so and so name. So there is a lot of interaction going on at the background. So my bank cannot be isolated. My bank has to accept this request also. Otherwise, my bank, there is no use, correct? So be it Paytm, be it Google Pay, Bhim UPI, there are so many other external systems which people would be using to access their bank account. So this whole context was missing, right, when it got launched, because no one thought that 600 users, 11 to 12, they will log in. There are so many external applications which are interacting with my bank, right? So what could be a better approach? So I have just hidden the dev and that phase. because I wanted to show something more called something called performance testing phase, right? So after development is complete, build, it comes, there is no change, testing size is 10, we do integration test, system test, user acceptance testing. We certify functional it is correct. Now we do performance testing of my bank with 600 users. Okay, when we test it, we come to know, array boss, this infrastructure is not sufficient. We have to increase. We will need one more application server, or we will need to add more CPUs to database server, or we might need a bigger network bandwidth, anything. Then we understand, okay, these are the problems with existing infrastructure, existing application, that the code is highly unstable or code is, taking a lot of time. The database queries are taking a lot of time. So we'll resolve all of them. We will again test the system with 600 users. Now, how we'll do it, I will explain later, because you cannot have 600 testers in your organization, right? Only for one application testing. So you have to use the performance testing tool to simulate those 600 users. So basically it is 10 earlier versus 600 now. Now when we test it, we come to know what are the issues, we resolve them issues. Obviously, we don't want this kind of issues in production, isn't it? So we resolve these issues. Now we relaunch my bank. So, and then we get a lot of good feedbacks from our end users saying that, wow, it is fantastic. I transferred my first transaction from this and it was complete within 2 seconds, or it was amazing. They will not say 2 seconds and all, because users don't bother about these seconds. They'll say it is good. They'll give you 5-star. Correct? So earlier when we launched my bank, we totally missed the performance aspect of the application. We just focused on functional aspect. So in relaunch, we reconsidered it. We said, no boss, we have to check whether 600 users can really log in and use the application. And when they log in, what is their experience? What is the end user experience? Are they able to transfer the money in same equal amount of time? Or are they able to pay bill in the same amount of time? Yeah. So any questions on this?
Sir, I have one question. Sometime it happens like when we transfer money and in between server, like we get lost, like our payment gets our payment gets lost in between, like it doesn't get transferred.
Yeah.
And we get that message like it will be credited within 24 hours. So is this related to performance as well?
It is not related to, so the issue can be due to performance, because it timed out, or it could not complete the transaction, or it can be a simple outage, something went down, but then that is not exactly directly related to performance. Okay, so the reason can be performance, or a reason need not be related to performance. It is something else. Yeah, for example, maybe there is a fire in the data center, then you can't help it, will go down anyways.
Yes.
Yeah, but then when you get your money back, that is called rolling back of transaction. So all IT systems are that way, very strong. When they understand that there is no matching order, they will return your money back. It will take some time. Obviously, they have got some bad jobs which will run, validate.
Yes. Okay. Yep. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So any questions? Any queries?
Sir, I have one question. Like you said, there will be 600 users. So do they put the load partially or directly the 600? I mean,
so it's not good to put directly 600 load. So there is something called ramping up, which we'll discuss when we'll look at types of tests, how we execute them.
okay.
The load is increased gradually. It is never put sudden.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But when I say that, it also depends on in production how it is going to happen. So if in production within 5 minutes, if these 600 users are going to log in, We have to exactly simulate the same when we do performance testing. So it all depends on what happens in production.
Okay.
Yeah. But as a best practice, we typically do not put sudden loads, because that is not is happening in production. In production also people will come gradually, isn't it? Maybe in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, in 30 minutes, they will go to 600.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, now let's look at, how my bank will be used in production. Okay, so on the right side here, I have shown some servers, which infrastructure, we have got web servers, application and database servers. Yeah, on the left side, I have just demonstrated or described, there are some laptop users, more mobile users, and then there are my bank application, employees also, which are going. So this is basically going to serve all the user requests. Yeah, so be it a laptop, be it mobile, or be it bank employees, they all will be using this infrastructure. Correct. So we call this as a user workload. Right. So basically, these 500 customers plus 100 bank employees would be executing some transactions which are related to credit card, which are related to account related. They'll be using login and logout. So all these would be serviced by this infrastructure, where applications are hosted on this infrastructure. Now, this what I have shown is called on-premise. Yeah, so this is physical hardware and servers. Now, most of the organizations are moving to cloud. Yeah, so this can be a cloud infrastructure also. In that case, the server numbers will not be fixed. If the load goes up, they will increase the servers automatically. That is the way the cloud works. Okay, but then for the sake of discussion, I have shown some on-premise fixed hardware and servers. Okay, so this is related to users. As we mentioned, my bank application is also interacting with external systems, right? So for example, if I use ATM or my bank, obviously ATM will first send request to banking application, checking whether this account exists, whether the PIN is right or wrong, whether the bank balance is there or not to withdraw money, etc., etc. Correct. So these also would be requests sent to the same infrastructure here. Then there are external systems like GPay, Paytm. There are other banking applications, right? Suppose if I transfer from my bank to HDFC Bank, naturally there will be interaction between HDFC Bank application and my application. Correct. So when we transfer money, you would have seen, there are different ways we can transfer money: RTGS, NEFT, and IMPS. So IMPS is instant. Right, the moment you transfer, within few seconds you will get the SMS that the transaction is complete. When it comes to NEFT and RTGS, it is asynchronous. So it will send the request, you will not get immediate response. That is called asynchronous. So it will wait. Right, and then there are batch jobs which are run after a particular time, maybe 15 minutes, 30 minutes. So what these batch jobs will do, this batch job for NEFT, if we run, it will collect all the NEFT related transactions and it will send to different banks. Right? Obviously, it is not that simple. There will be a lot of intermediary systems in between. But the point here is that these batch jobs for my bank application will collect all the NEFT requests submitted in the last 15 minutes. Yeah, it will process it. And then it will, when it receives a response that, okay, amount is credited, it will give the same message to this banking application. So there are so many types of, the request, the batch jobs, the real time are being sent to this. And this is being serviced by my bank online infrastructure or a system, we can say hardware plus software, this. So any question on this, anything which you have not understood here? Okay, I'll move on. Okay, now, when we spoke that, we will do performance testing of my bank, which was missing. Now this slide will actually tell you something more about how and when, how and what we'll be doing. So basically when we do performance testing, we will be actually building similar infrastructure, if not of same size, but bigger. Bigger in a sense, it will not be as big as production, because production environments are very big. Okay, because they have to serve millions of customers, maybe depending on the system, thousands of million. And when it comes to performance, this will be typical, you can say 50-60% of production. Yeah, but then little bigger than functional testing. Then, so we need an infrastructure which will host the application which we will test. Then we know we will need to actually work on user workload. What kind of user workload is being sent to this system, hardware and software, and it is being processed by this. Similarly, we have to find out external system workload which is being sent. So you have to quantify these two, right? Then only you can say, okay, I'll generate similar load, and then I will see how the application behaves. So what we need, we need a mechanism which can simulate this user and external system workload, right? So we need something which can simulate this 600 user load and simulate this external user load. Okay. Now, while we do that, we also want to understand how many of these requests are related to account, how many are related to credit card, how much is the external load. We want to quantify that as well, isn't it, individually? Because then only we'll be able to recreate what these 600 users on this slide would have sent, right? So how many credit card related transactions, how many account related, how many login and log out, and within credit card related, there might be 2-3 transactions. So what is the volume of each transaction? The 17 users are generating the statement, 59 users are transferring money, whatever. So we need some information, right, about, so we need to model the cumulative load, and for that we need individual numbers, so that then we can say, okay, if we generate this, what we are doing, we are actually simulating those 600 users in production. Yeah, so we need a mechanism to get these details. So this is typically done either through performance requirements, if they are known, or through production monitoring for existing systems. Okay, so basically what we need how much load we need to generate, what is the split up of that, how many transactions related to credit card, how many for login, log out, then how many requests are being sent which are related to UPI, let us say Bhim UPI or Google Pay or Paytm, how many requests are sent from ATM, which are withdraw or whatever, deposit cash, withdraw cash, right? Then how many transfers happening to other banks. So we need to also know all, so that then we can generate it using tool. Okay, so some way to measure. Now, when we generate this load using tool, we also need to monitor what happens, how the application is behaving. Is it good, bad? So we need performance metrics, right, which will tell us that application performance is within the expectation, within the performance requirement, or it will give you good user experience, or it will not give you good user experience because response time is going beyond 10 seconds. No one is going to wait for 10 seconds, etc. etc. So what we need, bigger infra as compared to functional testing. We need to quantify the user load, which we will need to put on a system. We need dicing and slicing of that load in terms of, let us say we are sending 6,000 transactions. So out of those 6,000, 1,500 are related to account, 3,000 are related to credit card, and 6,000 are login, log out. Again, in 3,000 related to credit card, 1,000 are related to paying the bill. 500 are related to just what, generating the statement. So those kind of details we will need to capture. Once we capture those details, we can use the tool to simulate that load. So that tool will generate that load, and then we will monitor this application, hardware and software, and we will study how does it behave. Is it good as per performance requirement? If there are no performance requirements, is it giving good user experience? So any questions on this?
Vikrant sir, for this we will require the data collection, the related previous year data collection, or at least 2 to 3 years data collection. So how many people will use a credit card at which time or at what time?
Correct. That's a good point. So when the application is existing in production and it is being enhanced, then you can collect all the details from production monitoring. Okay. But in our case, it is being launched for first time. So there is no production data available. So in that case, you have to go with some assumptions, based on what you can, you can get from the systems, existing systems.
Right.
Yeah, and then you have to work on your number. So they might be approximate because it is going live for first time. Okay, but it is good to do something rather than nothing. So once you do performance testing with that, you put it in production. So you're carrying calculated risk. Now, when you put it in production, you start capturing the data and you can, recalculate these numbers.
Okay.
Or you can fine tune based on the actual data from productions.
Okay. Right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so just a minute. Yeah, so this I will cover first. So this is the way we will do the simulation. Yeah, so we will calculate all the workload. We will get the numbers. As it is not in production, we will go with some approximation. Now I have shown this is the symbol for load runner, the top one, or it can be JMeter. Both tools can do it. Now this tool will actually simulate the load. Similarly, we will write stubs and frameworks. Again, load runner can simulate this load as well as it can simulate this load. Simulate means the way 600 users are sending, load runner can actually generate those many threads. So performance testing tool has an ability to create threads. Okay, each thread will be similar to one user. So that thread knows that I'm going to log in, I'm going to transfer money, I'm going to log out. Another thread will do, okay, get to credit card, go for past transactions, wait, log out. Third will do, okay, I'm going to transfer money. So these threads will be actually simulating those users. Okay, so load runner can do it, JMeter also can do it. There are many other tools. Yeah, so basically what we will need: performance requirements, workload model. Workload model will be basically telling us how much the workload we are going to send to this application. So that is called, we are modeling the workload. Yeah, we are preparing the model. The model means it will be simple tabular form. It will tell me login, logout, 6,000 requests you have to send, credit card related, this is the split up, this is the transaction, this is the volume. Yeah, so once we complete the table for all the transactions, that becomes our workload model. So my tool will exactly simulate those, send those load to the application. Similarly, it will also simulate external system workload. And then we will have a performance monitoring tool which will monitor, because when we send a load, it's not just sufficient, right? We also want to know, okay, is my CPU saturating? Is my memory okay? Is my queue getting full? So that needs to be monitored. So this will be done by performance monitoring tool. Okay, so this is the way we will be doing performance testing when it comes to MyBank application. Now let's go to the definition. So what is performance testing? So performance test is a test of a complete system. And this is the keyword. Is a test of a complete system, that is hardware and software together, carried out under reproducible and near production like conditions. Reproducible means when I do a performance test, I should be able to repeat it. I can reproduce it again. Near production like conditions. Yeah, so it is costly to have, hardware. Hardware is costly, right? When it comes to IT companies, they have some budget for hardware investments and all, right? So it's very, very costly kind of item, right? So we cannot have exact production replica, right? Because it is not possible to build exact production because it will be very costly. It is possible to build, but it will be very costly. So companies cannot afford, right? So basically what we'll try to go as near production like condition, if not exactly production. What does this condition in terms of system? That means hardware, software, in terms of data, in terms of number of users, background noise. Background noise is something which is not part of your application, but it is consuming your hardware. So you have to replicate that as well. Correct? Because in production, let us say we have a shared infrastructure, okay, in production. So along with our server, something else also run on that particular hardware. So we have to replicate that also, we have to simulate that also when we do performance testing. Okay, so we actually test the system complete under reproducible and near production like conditions, which include system, data, number of users, background noise, etc., with the intent to assess if the system functions as per performance requirements. Now, as I said, 90% of the projects you will see there are no performance requirements. So in that case, what would you do? Because you don't have performance requirement. So what we can say, if there are no performance requirement, we will check if it can provide good user experience. Yeah, so either you go by requirements. Obviously, requirements will ensure that the user experience is good. If you have no requirements, you go by with thumb rules, which will give you some indication of good end user experience. I'll put one more keyword here, end user experience. Yeah. Now there are some points which are on top of this definition. So performance testing involves measurements of various key performance parameters like response time, throughput, user concurrency. Performance testing identifies bottlenecks in the system performance and retest performance defects to validate that they are fixed. So when we do performance testing, if the performance requirements are not within as expected, or the end user experience is not good, for example, the screen load takes maybe a few more seconds. So what we will do, we will say, okay, there is a bottleneck in the system. We'll find out whether it is because of a database query which is taking time, or is it a web service which is taking time. So that becomes a bottleneck because that is the slowest part of the system. Okay, so once we identify, we will give the feedback to the concerned team, be it infra team, be it development team, be it DBA team. They will resolve that. They will remove that bottleneck. They will say, okay, now we have rewritten the database query. Now it does not take 5 seconds. It takes only 1.5 seconds. So that means you have tuned the query. Okay. Now when they say we have tuned, we have to validate it again. Yeah. So when we test it, first we identify bottlenecks. For example, database query, we raise a performance defect. We write that in a performance defect description that this particular search takes 7 seconds. When we take a deep dive, we understand that this is a particular query which is taking 5 seconds, whereas the SLA that it should actually get completed in 1 second or 2 seconds. So DBS will say, okay, we will write it again, we will tune the query. They'll say, okay, now we have tuned it, so we'll execute the same load test again or a performance test again, and we'll check. Now it is not taking 5 seconds, now it is taking 1.5 seconds. So that also is part of performance testing. We have to validate that they are fixed. Okay, and performance testing reduces risk of failure due to performance issues because we have been testing it. So identify all the issues, we resolve it. So those issues will not come in production. So the risk reduces because we have reduced those causes and the incidences already as a part of performance testing. So in interview, if someone asks you what is performance testing, you actually should talk of all these points. Yeah, so it's like defining an elephant. Yeah, you can't define elephant in one line. Yeah, because it has got trunk, it has such a huge body, it has got so many other attributes. So it's similar to that. Yeah, but then what are the keywords that we test complete system, hardware and software? We ensure that it is reproducible and we do it in near production like condition. So we ensure that the hardware is maybe not exactly production, but as big, try to go near the production. We also ensure that the data in the tables, just to give example, the number of users, let us say 1,000 users are in production. And if our infrastructure, let us say 60% of production, so we'll say, okay, we'll go with 600 users. And if there are any background noises, any bad jobs which are running, right? So we'll simulate everything. And why we do it? Because we want to assess if the system functions as per the performance requirement, or if there are no performance requirement, at least can system provide good end user experience. Okay. And as a part of performance testing, we measure various key performance parameters: response time, throughput, user concurrency. We identify bottlenecks, we raise defects, performance defects corresponding to those bottlenecks. And once they get resolved by respective team, we retest it to validate that they're actually fixed, that this bottleneck is no more there. Yeah, and because we identify all the issues, failures in performance testing, it reduces the risk of failure in production. I'll add that to make it more specific. Any questions on any of this point? Okay. So anyways, you can have follow-up questions tomorrow also. It's not necessary that you need to ask questions right away. Maybe when you will go through, you can have some questions. We can discuss tomorrow, not a problem. Okay, so this is what a performance testing is. Yeah, which contains some sub points, but then they will add more details to the definition of performance testing. Okay, now let's look at a performance testing life cycle. So we all know software testing life cycle, not very different, right? We do requirement analysis, we do planning and design, we do execution, and then we do closure. When it comes to performance testing, it is more iterative in nature. Okay, in this area, you can see there are two arrows which are iterating. Okay, so when it comes to requirement gathering, we gather performance requirement. Best practice is to arrange a workshop, where you will involve the developers, the DBAs, the customer, the infra team, so that they all will give you input on performance. Okay, then we check user expectations, contractual. Many times, when your system is interacting with other systems, there are some SLAs which we commit that, our system will respond in 5 seconds. So you have to honor that because it is a contractual, which you have signed. If your system does not respond in 5 seconds, you are liable for penalties. So all these aspects will be covered when we gather performance requirement. Test planning and design. Yeah, so while we are working on performance requirement, we start working on performance test plan / strategy. They are same. There is no separate document. Yeah, we will talk about what kind of environment we will need, prepare workload model, and we'll get it signed off. Yeah, so that everyone agrees that yes, these are the numbers you should test the system for. We will also decide on how we will create test data. For performance testing, you need a lot of test data. Now, if you take a simple example of my bank, 600 users, if you're using, that means you need 600 logins, correct? User IDs. That's a lot of test data you have to create. When you are saying I'm firing 6,000 credit card related transactions, so you need to have 6,000 credit card numbers, isn't it? So there is a lot of test data required. So you have to plan how you will create it, whether you will get it from production after masking the data. There are so many things can be done. Monitoring strategy, which metrics you are going to collect. Then we'll prepare the scripts. Yeah. So for example, login, logout, one script you have to prepare. If you want to transfer money, you have to prepare a script, login, transfer money, logout. Yeah, so we'll prepare scripts, we will debug them. So this is what the whole workshop will be. When we learn load runner, we'll be focusing mainly on this. And then we do dry runs, we will try running them in some work, some 10 user, 15 user, those are called dry runs. When we do that, and we complete all the scripts, they're all good to run. We will prepare test data, we'll set up scenario using a tool, we'll execute test and we'll validate the run. So there are a lot of aspects involved in that. I will explain them when we'll actually, try to analyze the results. Okay, and if there are any issues, we will raise defects. Yeah. Now this is iterative. So we'll execute, we will analyze. Yeah. After analysis, we observe that, okay, something is wrong. There are bottlenecks or there are some issues. We'll raise defects. They will get fixed. We'll again execute it. So it's kind of retesting. So we do this for functional testing also. Obviously, we raise a defect, we retest it, we either close it, we reopen it. But in performance testing, it is more, what you can say, the whole test, the whole scenario gets repeated again. It's not just the one transactions or like that. Okay, so this actually can happen multiple times. So if there is new code drop, we'll again execute, again analyze. So if things are all good, okay, so for example, we first executed, analyzed, raised defects, retested it, some defects are gone, some are still there. We again execute, test, analyze, give feedback, again they fix. Now when we execute, we don't see any of those issues. Then we'll say, okay, now we are good. Okay, so we are good to sign off. So we'll compare with benchmarks, performance metrics, and then we will go to deployment. So code will get deployed and we will actually, there are some other strategies where we can validate the performance in production through single user test, etc. Yeah, so this is overall. So the key differences here is environment design, because we need bigger environment. We need to prepare workload model. Yeah, we need a lot of test data as compared to functional. For functional testing, if you want to test login, logout, you need one login and one logout, correct? For performance testing, we will need thousands of users login, correct? All scripts, nothing manual. It's all really using the tool, using scripting. Yeah, so these are the key differences when it comes to functional testing. Requirements also will be very challenging to capture. Any questions on this?
Sir, this performance requirement analysis and test planning and design is done when we do for functional testing, or it will be done after functional testing?
No, it can run parallelly.
Okay.
See, we always prefer to overlap, because then we save some time.
Only execution will be done after, once the performance testing, functional testing is done.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
So we'll always overlap. We'll try preparing scripts while functional testing is going on. At the most, what we'll need to modify those scripts, when the defect gets fixed. But you're right, execution will happen after it is functionally stable, because then you can't do any meaningful performance testing.
Okay.
Now again, let's go back to performance testing is becoming a de facto type of testing in most of the IT industry. When I started in 2008-9, not every company used to do performance testing, right? And so then there was a realization, so many incidences we saw, people still observe, right? There are a lot of issues, and company became all IT industry. There was maturity, you can say, right? And they started thinking of was performance testing is important, because if you don't do it, you have to spend a lot of more money. So better you start doing it so that you save money, isn't it? Why do we testing? Yeah, we do testing so that our appraisal cost is always lesser than failure cost. You all know cost of quality concept, right? Refer to my functional testing lectures. You will come to know. Increase uptime of mission critical systems. Mission critical systems, for example, if you take, can you give example of any mission critical system in recent time? Not mission critical, just critical also would do. Any example? We all forgot the vaccination of COVID.
Yes.
Yeah, COVID was such a critical application for
Yes.
booking your appointment.
Mm.
I
Yes.
mean, imagine that is not performance tested and you are not able to book your appointment because it just takes so much time, or it goes times out. What kind of negativity it would have created in whole of society, right? But because it was performance tested, and I mean, nowadays government applications are also equally good, right? COVID is one excellent example. Imagine millions of people trying to use the appointment, right? I mean, across India, easily millions trying to book an appointment in a day on the same slot. Or they're trying to download the certificate, or they're raising queries. But then it went well. So it passed all the criteria, right? So I think that's amazing. So it's not just Apple and Google can do it. If there is a willpower, even our government can do it. And that was an excellent example.
Sir,
Right.
even IRCTC, we can say.
Correct. But then
It was-
IRCTC, I mean, I'll give one more example. The stock market.
Yes.
Yes.
Have you dealt in stock market?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
A few years back, I attended one performance testing conference, and TCS team presented, because TCS maintains that stock market application. Okay. And the way Infosys maintains the income tax, that also is amazing. I mean, there were some initial hitches. That is always part and parcel. Any product will go through a lot of issues and then it will become stable. Okay. So in stock market, when between 9 to 3 p.m., the server is processing 1 million transactions per second. Can you imagine? 1 million. So many people selling, buying, so many companies, and they're able to manage that. Have you ever seen that, you have, I mean, I don't know how many of you deal in shares, but if you sell a share, I mean, within 2 seconds, you get a confirmation. How is it possible? There are millions of transactions happening at the same time. Yeah, so these are mission critical, I would say, because if share market server goes down, people lose a lot of money, lot. So another example. Yeah, so Covin was one example, excellent example. Then IRCTC, absolutely, it is such a heavily loaded website. Correct. So Covin, IRCTC, and stock market. Right now, obviously, Amazon and all, they're also loaded website, but then they're private. I mean, they're owned by Amazon, right? why these IRCTC and stock, they are important because they're managed by government agencies and still they are performing well. So do you think that they will be deploying them without doing any performance testing?
No, sir. No.
They will not even think of it.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right? So that is the importance of performance testing when it comes to, in fact, not, but even our Chandrayaan or Mangalyaan, I'm sure they would have done performance testing on some of the part of those systems, if not all.
Yes, definitely, sir.
Without that, you can't have great applications, right? Measure and monitor performance of business infrastructure. No, why business? Any infrastructure, right? So you have to ensure. So I'm sure, right? So many people now going towards stock market, investing through mutual funds. I'm sure they would be assessing that is our infrastructure enough, or do we need to add more servers? Or I'm sure they will be already on cloud. Yeah, because cloud will give you the moment you need server, next minute server will get added. So we have added hardware capacity and all that. But then you have to continuously. So it's not that they would have done performance testing and deployed it. They will be continuously doing it every month, every quarter. I don't know the frequency. So unless you keep on doing it, you will not come to know whether you are enough, you are good or you are bad, or you are carrying a risk. Yeah, protect IT investment by predicting scalability and performance. Because when you do performance testing, you will come to know, what is the headroom available for you, right? From an infrastructure perspective, headroom means suppose your infrastructure is 70% utilized. That means you have a headroom of 20%. Yeah, because above 90%, it is very risky. Your application can get hanged. Yeah, so performance is foundational aspect of good user experience. Yeah, so we're coming back to good user experience. When you sell a share, when you get immediate within 2 seconds, because that is the high price which you are trying to sell, right? If it gets sold after 5 minutes and the price is not high, you will get frustrated. You will say, boss, what the hell? I wanted to earn cash. I wanted good profit. So that's why I wanted to sell it now, but your infrastructure is not able to support. So performance is about retaining users or maybe getting more users. Performance is about people. Yeah, so it is so closely related with people's, what you can say, psychology, feeling. For example, if I want to buy something, I will always go to a particular e-commerce website. I will never go to any other website. You will have also some preferences, and that is based on the credibility of that maybe e-commerce provider, the experience you are having. Yeah, if I'm buying clothes, I will go to Myntra with my eyes closed. No issues, never. How many times you want to return? You can return it. Obviously, there's a different aspect, nothing to do with performance. But the point here is that because they assure you that you will have a good end user experience, you will become a loyal customer of that company. And that's what every company wants. Loyalty is missing in all users nowadays. Yeah, because if I get something cheaper somewhere outside, I'll go there, isn't it? But when I have a good user experience, I'll say, I don't care. Even if I give you 1 rupee or 2 rupee extra, I'll buy from here only. That's where so performance plays very key role in end user experience. So I'm not saying that only good performance will ensure good user experience. Don't confuse between those two terms. Good user experience is much more than just a performance. Okay, but bad performance can spoil a good user experience. Hope you are getting what I'm trying to say here. So when I say good user experience, that indirectly tells that my performance is very good. But if my performance is screwed up, even if my other aspects are very good, my user experience will never be good. I'll say, boss, it's very slow. Don't tell me any other stuff. how does it matter that you have this discount, that discount, but it is very slow. I don't want to use, or I'm not happy with that. Any questions or views on these points?
Sir, just had one question.
Mhm.
So usually businesses do have some backup infrastructure as well. So do they do such kind of performance testing on that backup infrastructure?
Yes. So there is another type of testing called disaster recovery testing. Okay. So every mission critical or important or business critical application, they would have backup systems always ready. What they do as a part of disaster recovery, they will actually intentionally put one server down. They will down it physically. And then they will test how fast the other server takes up. So they would have some requirement, that for example, if primary server goes down, within 5 minutes, secondary should take over, not more than 5 minutes. So they will test all that. So that is called disaster recovery testing.
Okay.
Okay. So when we do disaster recovery testing, we actually, it's not a performance testing per se, because what we are trying to check is whether other system can take over. And what happens to in-flight orders, right? Suppose if I'm about to pay and the server goes down. Okay. So whether that exactly order gets carried away to another server, or whether that will be done manually from that team. So that they will all decide. They will test it. But when we do disaster recovery testing, we as a performance tester can support it by generating load on both the servers.
Okay.
Okay, so we are participating in disaster recovery, because for disaster recovery, you need two servers. One is primary, another is secondary. Primary is being used heavily and suddenly it is put off. So that load which is generated is done by performance testing.
Okay.
So the disaster recovery team will put the server down and then they'll observe whether the other server takes up, and they will certify that yes, disaster recovery scenario is as per requirements. We are not losing any customer data. We are not losing any order. And these are the ways we can, recapture them or whatever. But then using performance testing tool, we have to generate that load and then we can perform that disaster recovery testing.
Okay. Okay, sir. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Now performance impact revenues, right? We spoke about it at length. Now here are some examples. Yeah, so typically for all e-commerce, online ventures, high performing sites engage and retain users. Yeah, because user is excited to use it. The moment I click it, the page gets loaded. Wow, that's good. So Pinterest is one social media or whatever site. They increase search engine traffic and sign up by 15% when they reduced perceived wait time by 40%. Okay, so wait time for the user, that user felt that they're waiting, that's about perceived wait time. They worked on that. They tuned their application so that the wait time reduced. They observed that their signups went up by 15%. Now this data cannot be collected in one day. It is a cumulative statistical data. They would have observed it for a few months. Okay, that current wait time is for, let us say current user need to wait for 5 seconds. Now they tune the system. They say, okay, now user needs to wait for 3 seconds. And then they collected data for 1 or 2 weeks. They compared both the data and then they concluded this. Similarly, Cook increased conversion by 7%, decreased bounce rate by 7%. So bounce rate is basically when a customer or a user abandons your website, it is called bouncing off. Okay, so for example, I visited Cook, I did not like it, I will not come back, I'm bounced. So it is called bouncing off from a website. So bouncing off is not good for that particular client because they are losing a customer. Okay, so in case of Cook website, they reduce the average page load time by 850 milliseconds. That is 0.85 second. And they say that, the conversion, that is the people who signed up earlier, they used to visit and don't sign. Now 7% more people signed. Then 7% less people bounced off. Yeah, and increase pages per session. So more people visited, more number of pages. So that's good, because the more you visit, more you will buy. As simple as that. Yeah. So these are examples of high performance. Now there are a couple of examples of low performance. So the BBC, the famous broadcasting company, they found that they lost an additional 10% of user for every additional second their site took to load. Now again, they would have done some statistical analysis. It's not one day data, it is over few months. DoubleClick by Google. So DoubleClick is, so Google has many companies. One is such company is DoubleClick. That 53% of mobile site visitors were abandoned if a page took longer than 3 seconds. Yeah, so what they observed, that if a page takes more than 3 seconds, 53% of the users, they will not continue with the usage of that website itself. They'll go to another website. Okay, so when they reduced it by 3 seconds, so it used to take less than 3 seconds to load, then they're improved. So right now what they faced, it was taking more than 3 seconds, and 53% of the site visits are abandoned. Not good, because these people are never going to come to DoubleClick again. And if DoubleClick is selling something, their sale is getting affected. Yeah, so these are some examples of performance impact revenues. And now you may say that was 15% sign up, ni kai farak padnar hai? Was their revenues are in $1 billion. So 5% increase in their profit is huge money, huge. Yeah, so these percentages, though they look small, but these companies will value it a lot, because 7% is a lot for a company who is selling something online. Yeah, because the 7% can bring them in a profit from a loss. And because they are doing, billions of dollars of, transactions, 7% also is in billion. Yeah, so these are some examples. You can get a lot many examples, if you search on Google. See, look at this 850 milliseconds. I mean, they're talking of milliseconds, right? So it is so important. Performance impact revenues, right? So basically, there are a few other examples. So these are little old, but interesting. Yeah, so Obamacare was one such website in which basically, okay, here is fundraising, not Obamacare. So they increased the page speed by 60%, and they could get additional $34 million. Can you imagine? I mean, what impact? Because it was fast, people could complete it, and more people could give it. Walmart is again online. The Walmart is in India also now. Trailed its competitors online until they made improvements. Yeah, because they were behind in terms of sell, in terms of market share, whatever. And for every 1 second of improvement of load time, the site experienced a 2% improvement in conversion rate. So I mean, imagine by changing this 2%, they were not trailing later. Right? Intuit is another IT company, cut load time in half and saw the increase in 14% conversion. Conversion means earlier, suppose for example, earlier 10 people or 100 people used to visit. Yeah, only 14 used to sign up. After they cut the load time in half, that means the page could load faster. Maybe they saw now in place of 14 people in 100, now 25 people are signing up. So that means they're getting more customers, that is more revenue. They're buying more products, everything. GQ is a magazine in US. they decreased its average load time from 7 seconds to 2 seconds. So earlier there, whenever someone used to visit their website, it's for men's fashion in US. And now we have that in India also. 7 to 2 seconds saw that 83% increase in traffic. So earlier, because of 7 seconds, people used to abandon it. Arey yaar, jaane do. Now it used to load in 2 seconds every page. This was 83%. So wherever they used to get 100 visits, now they used to get 183 visits. That means bigger business, more revenue. All right, now let's look at, now these are all commercial applications, right? I mean, they're making in billions, millions. How does performance of any system can affect, a common people like us? Let's take some example. So you all would have gone through appraisal system, right? In your system, in your company. So
Yes, sir.
appraisal, yearly
Yes.
appraisal.
Yes.
So every company has a particular application. So what employees will do, they will at the end of the year, let us say the appraisal time is say April to March. Okay, so let us say this next March, if you are going to get your appraisal. So before March, in February, you will go, you will log in and you will enter all the details. What have you done, right? Achievements, I did that, I developed a framework, I automated 1,000+ test cases, whatever. Or I managed a team, I got a customer appreciation. You will put everything in the performance appraisal system or application. Okay, so and during that, towards the end date of appraisal, everyone hurries up to fill more data, and then your superior or your boss will say, okay, you change this, change that. You will again visit, you again log into that. This is internal application. Every company has it. Okay, so let us say number of employees are less than 1,000 in a mid-sized company. Okay, and these appraisal systems generally do not have lot many pages, 4 to 5. I mean, you can open up the form, you can submit it, final it, etc. Yeah, and if we say time taken to load a page is 2 seconds. Okay, so there are 5 pages which you visit, 2 seconds. So wait time per visit per employee is normally 10 seconds. Yeah, because I'm visiting those 5 pages. Every page takes 2 seconds. So I'm waiting for 10. I'm not doing anything for those 10 seconds because it's a wait time. Overall wait time across companies 10,000 seconds. I have just considered 1,000 employees into 10 seconds per visit. So per visit, whole company waits for 10,000 seconds. That is almost 3 hours. Yeah, so you look at the cumulative effect. Okay, now average visits of an employee, I'm saying, let us say, here I've just shown you that even if everyone visits once, the whole company spends 3 hours in waiting for 1,000 people company. Okay, now let us say in place of 2 seconds, it is taking 4 seconds. I'm almost whole company waits for 6 hours only for one visit. And typically, what happens when towards the end date, people start scrambling, and that's why 2 seconds become 4 seconds because everyone is trying to access the system. Now, on an average, every employee visits 3 times, first to enter, then, to update or to correct, third time for submitting it. Okay, so if you calculate days, there are 2.5 working man days are spent waiting. That's it. We don't realize how much time we waste in waiting. Now imagine it's a large size company, 1 lakh people. Okay, and because in last 3 days, everyone is trying to access, I have seen my own experience. For last 2 days, the appraisal system is not available. It gets either hanged or it crashes. Or it becomes so slow that people start complaining that I'm not able to access it. Okay, so with 1 lakh people company, 4 seconds, 20 seconds, we spent 555 hours only in waiting. Can you imagine such a waste of human efforts? Because it took 4 seconds in place of 2 seconds. So imagine it is sub-second, only 1 second it takes. So this will be reduced by 1/4 directly. In place of 500 hours, whole company will spend 100 hours. But because on last day, everyone is trying to access it, it is taking 4 seconds. Yeah. So overall wait time, if there are 3 visits, 200 working man days. Can you imagine? In 200 working man days, one can deliver a good IT project. Do you agree?
Yes.
And people are just waiting because the application is slow. Correct. So we don't realize how this performance impact the employees also. Imagine, you're daily using some application or some batch job and it takes 5 minutes. I mean, you're waiting for 5 minutes. You're not doing anything because obviously then you learn to go and take a coffee and come back in 5 minutes and all. But then it is unproductive 5 minutes. What if it can be get completed in 1 minute after tuning? Everyone would love it. Right? So because external systems impact revenue, everyone is bothered about them, but people are not bothered with the same intensity for internal systems. But internal systems also make you wait. Internal systems also waste your time, which you don't realize. I've taken another example. Yeah, Google processes 3.5 billion searches every day. We all go and search on Google. Everyone do it. Yeah, so 3.5 billion searches. Okay. Imagine 100 millisecond delay. So 0.1 second, if Google delays, that will add to so many seconds in a day, right? So many hours in a day. So if Google becomes 100 milliseconds slow, there'll be 4,000 man days wasted across the globe only in searches. Can you imagine this 4,000 man days can do wonders in terms of if we add them to good projects, add them in a positive way. Because this number is so huge, even 100 million, 100 millisecond. Yeah, so earlier it used to take 1 second, now it is take 1.1 second, but you're waiting for that 100 millisecond, right? Because there are 3.5 billion searches, 4,000 man days are wasted in waiting. Is it severe? It is. Right? So we don't realize that our internal systems of the company also needs to be performance tested. Otherwise, they will lead to a lot of wait time of employees. That will create a lot of negativity. Anything is slow, which drags everything down. It spreads negativity. Right? Shall we move on?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm sure you all know economy of testing. 1:10:100. That's a thumb rule. You know, Rishikesh? Have you heard of it? 1:10:100.
No, sir, I haven't heard of it.
Okay, Shraddha.
No, sir.
Okay, I think you should do ISTQB certification. That will help you to get your testing theory much better. Yeah. So 1:10:100 is a thumb rule. If you find a defect in requirement, you need 1 rupee to fix it. If you find a same in testing, you need 10 rupees to fix it. And if you can't find it, and if your customer finds it, you spend 100 rupees in fixing it. Right? So not only fixing, it also includes the damage it is creating in the mind of customer because he or she found it. यार ये application में defect मिला, क्या test करते हैं लोग पता नहीं. Yeah, so that is called economy of testing. So when I share my manual functional testing link, I would urge you to go through that as well so that you will get clarity on many concepts. So when it comes to performance testing, I have put this greater than remark. So 1:10:200 is anyways good for testing. When it comes to performance testing, it is much bigger than that. So it is much bigger than 10 times. It is much bigger than 100 times. Yeah, so if you can find performance defects in requirement, what you need to do, change the requirement document. Yeah, that is 1 unit or $1 or 1 rupee. You find the same in testing. I don't think it is 10. It is much more than that. Yeah, because when you do performance testing, it involves a lot of activities like test data creation. When you run a load test, when it fails, you have to run it again. You consume a lot of resources of infrastructure. Yeah, so the money involved is much bigger. And imagine any e-commerce website crashes because of performance. Yeah, it can crash for another reason also. We are not talking of that. Our focus is because of performance, it should not crash. They will lose millions of dollars. Forget about 100x. Yeah, I remember there is one bank. Again, I will not take name because we don't want to name and shame anyone. So they had their data center in Hyderabad. Okay, and there was a flash flood in Hyderabad, and their data center got flooded. And after 2-3 days, there was Amazon big billion sale or whatever was going on, Diwali sale or something. And people could not use credit card of this bank because their servers were down, not because of performance. Point here is that imagine the losses they would have made because Amazon was making money, but none of that bank credit card could be used because the OTP was not generated because of the data center was down. I'm sure they would have, lost millions, crores of rupees in 4 or 5 days. Yeah, now same thing can happen in performance also. Point here is that anything goes down because of performance, you start paying heavy prices for that. So that's why performance testing defects as early as possible. So that's why you should do performance testing in any form at every stage. The way we do unit testing, integration testing, system testing, end-to-end testing. Yeah, so these are some of the ways. So I'm calling it as a performance evaluation, because it's not testing always. For example, when the requirements are captured, you should review them. You can have a checklist to review. Similarly, when the design gets, when the design is prepared, low level, high level, use review checklist to find, can it lead to any performance issues? When it is coded, you can do a code review using checklist. There are static analysis tools available. Yeah, they will tell you whether your code has any performance issues or not. Obviously, they're very high level, not very, what you can say, very detailed, but they will at least tell you, they'll hint at it. Yeah. So when developers do unit testing, we can easily actually utilize those results to draw some conclusion for a unit performance testing also. For example, if developer is testing a web service, we know that this web service should be able to complete its operation in 1 second. If it is taking 2 seconds in unit testing, that should raise a flag immediately. Yeah, so there are tools like JUnit, MUnit, depending on the platform where you work on. Right? When it comes to integration, we should do API performance testing. Yeah, so even before integration, we should test whether the API or a web service is as per the requirement or not. When it comes to system testing, you can actually do end-to-end, right? You can execute. This is called conventional. So most of the companies do here performance testing. And that's where you will use a tool called load runner. So you will execute all end-to-end flows and you will check whether they get completed in time, the system response time, throughput, the infrastructure utilization, etc. Okay. And then deployment and monitoring. You should deploy some monitoring tools in production, AppDynamics, Dynatrace. You can use these during this performance testing also. You should be using, in fact. But they can also be leveraged to monitor after the deployment what happens in production. So these are the different ways you can actually evaluate performance even from requirement stage to deployment. This is only for your information. Our focus is mainly on this part. Yeah, use load runner and do system performance testing. Any questions on this?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, when performance testing needs to be done, right? So I've tried to list all the possible scenarios. So after going through this scenario, what you will realize that performance testing has to be done for each release. Okay. So whenever there are software upgrade, front-end upgrade, middleware upgrade, database upgrade, server upgrade, you should do performance testing because you don't know with the new version how the performance is going to be. For any hardware upgrade, you should do performance testing. For both combination that you're upgrading software, upgrading hardware, you should do. So when we do this upgrade, we do performance testing before the upgrade. Then we upgrade the software and we do performance testing again. And we'll compare those two results, whether it is degrading or is there any negative impact of the change. When you migrate from one technology to another, you should do performance testing. Any major code changes you are doing, performance testing is mandatory. Major releases, I mean, lot of new functionality getting added. Hot fixes, something are urgent. Something fails in production and they want to fix it within 24 hours. We recommend that, it has to be performance tested because it should not create new issues, right? After fixing it. Any new implementations, you are deploying new, do performance testing. Any architectural changes, you are maybe moving to microservices from monolith. Monolith is single, right? Not multiple layers. Microservices is a new way of deploying, which is very, very performance, what you can say, savvy. Yeah, the moment you move to microservices, your performance is very good. Then whenever users complaining about substandard performance, increase bounce rate, reduce revenue, you should start doing performance testing. That's what those companies did, right? When they realized that boss, we're losing so many customers, then they started working on, okay, let's reduce the page load time, let us reduce that, let us reduce this. So if you look at it, I mean, performance testing has to be part of every release. Now, obviously, not every minor release. So that is again a decision taken based on the risk which we are carrying, right? If we believe that we have monthly releases and we are not making any major changes, we might say that, okay, then we will do every quarter, but then that is what your confidence is, that you are sure that, your performance is not going to degrade by such a small change. Yeah, so it is always risk and benefits. If you feel there is a risk, you should do performance test. Risk of performance being degraded. That's the risk which I'm talking about. Any questions here?
No, sir.
Archana?
No, sir.
Vikrant,
Yeah.
I don't know whether it is related to this one, but I want to ask you, is the performance testing depend upon the size of the software or the applications of
No,
size
so
of the application?
that is what we try to find out, that whether the current infrastructure size is adequate or whether the application code is good, whether it is scalable. So that is what we try to find out by doing performance testing.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Okay, now these are typical causes, why there are performance issues. So this I have taken from one tool website called Neotis. So Tricentis has bought Neotis tool recently. So some of these, poorly written code, unoptimized. So maximum problems are in databases. Okay, and that's where I mean you should have a good understanding of how does a database, what is a schema. I'll cover some topic related to indexes. So indexes will improve the performance of database. So you should be aware of that at high level. That's what I would say. Yeah, unmanaged growth of data. So I mean the tables are getting populated and a lot of data getting added to database. It start degrading the performance of the application. Then traffic spikes. This you can relate to Black Friday, or sudden increase. Then poor load distribution. So this is related to infrastructure, default configuration. So every software, has a configuration. So there are vanilla configuration settings, but then you have to change them based on what your customized expectation is. If you don't do it, then the application or the software will not work to its fullest performance. Then there are some issues related to network connectivity, DNS, firewall, troublesome third-party services. Yeah, because nowadays our software needs to be part of an ecosystem. It can't alone, stand up and work. It has to interact with so many other systems. Many times those systems can create issues. Yeah, shared resources and virtual machines. So because there are multiple applications being run on one server, one virtual machine, it can actually cause some and a domino effect. So basically you have a problem in one layer that gets cascaded to another application because this application is not responding. So that application keeps on waiting, that application gets timeout. So it's called domino effect, so it just keeps on spreading. So these are the observations which are made by neo testing. Okay, these need not be the only causes. These are some of the causes for sure. Yeah, now let's look at career path. Now performance testing orientation is over. Now this is what I have mentioned here. You can start as a functional tester or as a fresher. Now we have both type of personalities here. Right? Archana will fall into fresher, rest are in functional tester. So we'll go through PT concepts, theory, tool training. You will become PT trained engineer. Okay. So trainee performance test engineer, what you will start working with, when you complete this boot camp. Yeah. So once you get couple of years of knowledge, my recommendation is either you can move towards performance test architect, but that is not 2 years, that is after 5-6 years. So you have to learn multiple tools, you have to learn multiple protocols. There are so many angles. It's not just that easy. Alternatively, you can say I want to be a full stack tester, so that I know Selenium Java, I know performance testing, I know security testing, and I'm a functional test engineer. So that way you can claim that I am a full stack tester. So there are multiple ways. I will guide you how you want to build your career. As of now, my recommendation is to first focus on these two. Yeah, or rather this block and trainee performance test engineer where we stand today. Yeah, I'll move on. Yeah, so job scenario in performance testing. So I have typically seen there are minimum 1,000+ job openings in performance testing, obviously across roles, right? Performance test architect, performance engineer, different expertises, pan India. Yeah, so I'll quickly go and check on Naukri search to check. So I'll just put performance testing, nothing else. I will not select any location because we're talking of pan India. There are 11,000 openings for performance. Now, if you look at it, you will see all the companies. Cognizant, you will see Accenture, Tech Mahindra, Quest. This is again Cognizant. General Mills is another company. They have set up a shop in India. This is for Accenture. Yeah, so there is no dearth. The problem is that there are no people in market who are skilled. And that's where you have got a good opportunity. If you become serious about this, next 2 years can change your career. Yeah. And obviously it's a journey. It's not that, that for 2 years you work hard and then you relax. No, I don't think. Being in IT, you have to be continuously upgrading yourself. So good hands-on performance test engineers are very difficult to find. I take so many interviews, half of them are fake. Yeah, they just put everything in their resume and then they'll just start searching for job. But that's not the right way to do it. So it takes time to learn and master performance testing. Yeah, but then once you start, I think you're on your journey towards. So journey is important, right? Not the end goal, because the journey should be fun. You should love the journey. Then the goal will always be the great, isn't it? Now, these are some of the performance testing tools available in market. I have not listed all, just few leading tools. Micro Focus Load Runner, the most widely used, but it's very costly. Yeah, so you will typically see the small to mid-size company will leverage JMeter. Yeah, because it is open source. So open source means you can download the code, you can install the tool on your own, you can use it for free. There is Tricentis NeoLoad, that is another tool which is upcoming. There is a tool called BlazeMeter, which typically uses JMeter as a, they have a wrapper on JMeter. So they have added some new functionality or new features or the way of convenience to use, but the inside tool is still JMeter. And there is one tool called IBM Rational Performance Test, but I never saw this being very regularly used by most of the client. You will typically see these three. Yeah, and whoever uses JMeter, because BlazeMeter is not very costly, they will leverage BlazeMeter also. But the underlying tool is still JMeter. Yeah, so to be in performance testing, you need to be jack of all trades and master of some. Yeah, so the saying it says master of none. No. So you need to be good in everything, not excellent. So good technical appetite, good interpersonal skills. You have to be good in communication, because performance test engineer will talk to everyone. He will talk to architect, he will talk to database administrator, he will talk to customer, he will talk to infra support, he will talk to other testing fellows, and you have to explain properly. So that's why these good interpersonal skills are important. I have seen people miserably fail. They're very good in technical, but they can't communicate. That will not work. So these good interpersonal skills can be developed by practice. It's not a big deal. You need to have just a willpower, yeah, and exposure. Inquisitiveness. You should be curious to know how does it work, why it is failing. Constructive communication, that is true for every testing. Ability to manage pressure, true for every job. Ability to deal with imperfection. I think some of these are common with every IT job, right? So what your end goal is, start with load runner, but be good hands-on. Obviously, this is a part of your journey. Next few years, I'm talking. Couple of performance testing tools. You should be good in 1 or 2 monitoring tools, multiple protocols. Yeah, then SQL queries, very, very important, because you deal with database a lot of times, and you should be good in one programming language. Yeah, so I think I am towards the end of the session. Now what I want to do, right? What I want you to do, I'll anyway send an assignment. You have to solve it. I would recommend prepare a separate notebook and write it by your own hand. Yeah, don't copy paste from Google. So you write it by own hand, because that will become your, you can say, cookbook before interview. You can go through it quickly and then you're ready for the interview. So whatever assignments I'm asking you, please solve them in a new notebook. Make a separate notebook. Okay. Now I want you to get, see, it all depends on exposure. Okay. If you want to be a good performance test engineer, you need to expose yourself with a lot of performance testing stuff. And one way of doing it is you can register with lot of groups. I'll show you some. I'll go to Facebook. I'll go to groups. So we are using social media for our own good benefit. I would use LoadRunner. Yeah, I'll search. Yeah, so this is one group, private, 2.6, 2000 members. This is a public group. So if I visit, you have to be part of this group. And then, many times people will send their queries. Yeah, okay, there is everything, you will find a lot of stuff. What you should be focusing on when people raise their queries and someone answers. Yeah, let me check that. Yeah, so I'm facing issue to execute SAP GUI script of. So this is someone is doing SAP performance testing. Okay, so it's sharing, and then people will comment. You read it. You don't need to experience everything, right? But the moment you be hang to these groups, you will get to know a lot of terms, terminology, what type of issues people are facing. You can put your own queries on this group and people will respond. Yeah. So enable show SAP GUI during reply and take a screenshot. So someone has already gone through it. So you don't need to learn everything on your own. You can learn from others also. Yeah. So whenever you will get a chance of SAP, you will say, okay, now I can relate this. But for somewhere you have to keep on feeding that to your brain. So this is one part. Another is if you go to LinkedIn, there are a lot of groups. Yeah, I'll go to LinkedIn. I will search LoadRunner. LoadRunner in groups. Yeah. Yeah. So Micro Focus, LoadRunner Cloud, LoadRunner True Client, Selenium Focus, LoadRunner Group. So there are so many groups. Join all the groups and keep on visiting them on a regular basis and read whatever you feel as an interesting part of it. So this is common, right? Automation and performance. This is LoadRunner Enterprise. This is performance testing, 33,000 people. So you will get a lot to share. If I click on this. So True Client is one protocol, okay, which is used by some applications. I will join. So it will go to admin and they will approve my request and then I can see all the interactions on that group. Yeah, so you have to consciously be part of these groups. Okay, so go to Facebook, search for LoadRunner groups or performance testing groups, join there. So when you join other groups on performance, you may find some post on JMeter, some on NeoLoad. That's okay, read it. Everything is new for you. Yeah, but then this is must. I will also recommend there are some YouTube channels, right? So when you want to learn something, you have to surround yourself with all those people. That's what you're doing when you will join all these groups. You are increasing your exposure to LoadRunner, performance testing. So that way, you will start seeing yourself in the form of performance testing. Your thought process will start aligning. And that is very important. Okay, so please join all these groups. Anyways, that will be part of assignment also. Yeah. Because I don't want to leave it by just saying. I want to ensure it that you all do it. Okay, so I think with this, I think we are ending our introduction to performance testing as a session. So we looked at it, a few incidences which are related to performance. Then we looked at what is performance, why it is important, how it is related to revenue. We looked at my bank application. We looked at, how something could be done better using my bank example when it comes to performance testing. We looked at functional, non-functional, various aspect comparison. We looked at performance testing life cycle high level. Yeah, we looked at revenue related to performance, causes of performance, how your career can be shaped. And then finally, we are closing with recommendation to get part of all these groups. Okay. So any questions?
No, sir.
So nothing for now.
Right.
Most probably will be coming up with questions in
Okay,
the further sessions.
no problem. Hope it is not overwhelming.
No.
Okay. I mean, you should now get used to this because I'll be parallelly starting with Java. Towards last 2 weeks, I'll be starting with SQL, very basic things.
Mhm.
But then what I want is you should be confident on day one when you join any project or you face an interview. You should not fumble. Oh, I don't know this, I don't know that. Yeah, so give your best. I will be uploading recordings of this session in another half an hour or so. Please go through it again.
Yes.
Yes.
Listen to it again. Come back with your questions. I'll be sharing assignment as well.
Okay.
Okay, so tomorrow we'll again start at 10:30 and
Sir, will you be sharing that assignment on the drive or?
yes, I will either share it on WhatsApp group or I'll upload it on Drive. I'll do one of those.
Okay, sir.
All right, so Manisha, you can share your mail ID so that I will
Yes,
give
sir.
you access to Google Drive. So I have given access to others, so you can also
Okay.
then listen to the recording and look at the assignments.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so hope it was something new which you learned and hope you all enjoyed it. I mean,
Yes, sir. Yes,
you
very
have to
much.
start enjoying.
Yes,
See, I
sir.
mean, I tell my daughter also, she doesn't like
Mm.
maths. I said, you start loving maths and you will learn maths. That's the only way. If you run
Yeah.
away from it, you will never learn.
Yeah, it's true.
Right.
When you do it again and again and again, see, our brain is so powerful, it will start developing those circuits
Mhm.
without we knowing it. Right? So when you repeatedly prepare scripts, one day you will say, "Arey, झोपेतनं उठवलं तरी you will prepare in half an hour." I know.
I mean,
My
we need to,
subconscious knows.
yes, we need to fit it in our subconscious mind.
Correct. So
Right.
you have to work
Yes.
hard till it goes into your subconscious.
Subconscious mind. Right.
Yes.
Then
Yes,
my
sir.
job is done. Then you are on your own. Yeah, because then that is what is right. I can't support you whole life.
No, it's true.
But then I'll be always around. But then my job is to make you stand on your feet, and then you yourself will be good on your own. All of you.
Okay.
Okay, I think
Yes.
let's stop here. We'll talk tomorrow 10:30. Otherwise, we are anyways in touch on WhatsApp group.
Hmm.
Okay, bye. Good day.
Bye,
Sir,
Okay, sir.
can I connect with you personally? I have some queries.